Hello and welcome to Irresistible. You ignite your passion and purpose. My name is Karen Seltz. I'm super excited that you are here with me for this episode. It's very interesting. I had a conversation today at my yoga studio with a young man. He's early 20s, recently graduated from college. And we were talking about worthiness. And it didn't land for him that that could be an issue in receiving. So it started out with a conversation about receiving and his refusal or rejection of anything coming his way, whether it be a compliment or different opportunities coming his way. And so I said, it's very much tied to worthiness in my experience. And he's like, like he just didn't get it. So I really thought, what a great topic, because none of us, I mean, when I had very little worthiness, the last thing that I would ever admit to was that I had not enough worthiness. Like I never would have admitted that out loud. But yet, now I'm thinking about it, I did have these top values on my wall that were contribution, worthiness, and freedom. And it was in there, but I wouldn't have wanted to admit that out loud. So how do you know? We're going to dive into how do you know if your worthiness is less than ideal, less than it really ought to be, and what do you do about it? Like even if you know it could be better, how do you fix it? How do you raise that up? So we're going to dive into that in this episode. So if you're intrigued at all, stick with me. And the way if your worthiness could be less than ideal is what are the results? What are the results you're experiencing in every area? What about your relationships? Are you settling for less than ideal relationships? Like, oh, this part's good, but this part really sucks, but it's better than nobody or better than anybody else I could ever get, that kind of thinking. There's a clue. What about your work situation? Are you in a position that you love doing or that you at least like? Are you being well compensated? Are you asking for raises? Or do you feel resentful when other people get promotions or raises and you don't, and you haven't asked? It's time for Lola. Come on, Lola. So those are a couple of areas where you can look at. I think a lot of people that don't have a really solid sense of self-worth think that people should automatically offer them promotions or give them things without them asking, or even, hello, Lola, even stating an interest. So there might be a position open at your work and you're waiting for someone to recommend, oh, I think you'd be perfect for this, and it doesn't happen. Or you're a coach and you think people should know how good I am and just come to me. And if I build it, they will come. But how do they know about you if you don't tell them? That kind of thing. So I used to have a lot of that as a coach. I thought, oh, people are going to just come to me. If I build it, they will come. I'll develop this fabulous program that nobody knows about, and somehow they will magically find out and come to me. Well, that didn't happen. It did not happen. I got to do a lot of other inner work really first before any of that happened. But it has happened recently. So I'll tell you about that later if I remember. So what are the other areas? Your health. Is your health less than ideal? Are you making choices that a healthy person would make? Or are you taking shortcuts? Are you saying, I'll start the diet tomorrow? I'll start exercising next week. I'll show up when I'm better looking or more perfect. Like some people in dating, for example, they'll say, well, I get to lose some weight is what I hear. I get to lose some weight before I start dating. I'm like, well, good luck with that. Like you get to start. So I was reading this morning before my yoga class about the energy of desire. And it got me thinking, they point out that without this energy of desire, that so many of us, especially on a spiritual path, are taught to fear. Like, what if I have sexual desires about somebody who's not my partner? Or what if I desire to be wealthy? Things like that. And many of us were taught like sexual desire is evil or bad or wrong. And it makes us a bad person if we have it, especially if it's not for our husband or wife or partner, right? and wanting to be wealthy is like, what's that word? The root of evil. Money is the root of all evil, when really it's just the love of money, but whatever, who cares? This particular book that I was reading is called The Way of Mastery. It's published by Shanti Christo Foundation. And it's saying that desire is the will of God expressing through you. And when we tamper it or tamp it down, nothing gets done except we get unhappy. So what? So here's what the book said. If you have a sexual desire, it doesn't mean you have to act on it, but you also don't have to squash it in your mind. You can say, yep, I had that thought. I thought, I had lustful thoughts about another person. It doesn't mean you act on them, but at least acknowledge it. Yep. Yeah, it felt good to think about that. That's okay. All right. And if you want to be wealthy, what's your why? Why do you want it? What would you do with it? Because part of it, you might not trust yourself with the money. Maybe you have a relationship with money where you don't feel worthy of having a lot of money accumulated or in your bank account or in investments or whatever. So you spend it because it's uncomfortable to have it. So maybe you don't trust yourself with money. Well, a lot of that, even like the romantic partnership, if you're in one that's less than ideal and you're settling and not happy, what's keeping you from thinking that you could attract somebody who meets all your criteria, that you're so happy with, it's so in love with, who inspires you, who excites you physically, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually? What has you think that you can't have all of it? Well, here's what I think. I think it's worthiness is a big part of it. And I want to go back to childhood and talk about, in rapid resolution therapy, or RRT, we talk about this concept called moralistic thinking. And it goes like this, that you were taught to think like a scientist from the time you were essentially a baby in your high chair, right? Like you knew that if you dropped your spoon, that it would fall down. It never, ever went sideways. It never fell up, ever. You were taught to think like a scientist about everything except yourself. And when it came to yourself, you were taught there was a thing called goodness that was pleasing to the food bringer. So whoever raised you, whoever's feeding you, we're taught, like, if I'm good, they're going to be happy with me and they'll keep feeding me, and therefore I will survive, right? So it's very much linked to your survival. You're also taught, good girl, mommy's so proud of you. Bad girl, mommy's so disappointed in you. So we start to view ourselves through the skewed lens of credit, blame, pride, and shame. So credit, you did a good thing, now I love you. Like you kept your room clean, good job, good girl, which is equivalent to I love you. Oh my gosh, you made a mess, I'm so disappointed in you, equivalent to I don't love you. So as children, we're taught to be people pleasers because it's kind of like a remote control to our behavior, and our parents, knowingly or unknowingly, add power to it all the time by using these concepts. And I don't think most parents know any differently, really, but it's very inconvenient to have a child that misbehaves, especially at certain times, because it makes us look bad. It's inconvenient, right? It's noisy, it's loud, and it's worth it in the long run, right? To do things a little bit differently. So what we're not taught is you have inherent worth. No matter how you behave, I will love you exactly the same amount. I don't know a parent that's ever said that besides maybe me, but my kids probably didn't believe me, right? They'd be like, I see your face. Your face is saying something else. I'm hearing the words. They're not matching the face. All right, who's guilty of that besides me? Yeah. So we also have this thing called religion. So you better be good or you're going to burn in hell. So essentially, God's always watching. So in the absence of the food bringer, there's more power to that remote control with this invisible entity of God. Like he's watching you, you better be good or something bad's going to happen. Or Santa Claus, right? Christmas was yesterday. So Santa knows if you've been bad or good. So children are frightened of making mistakes, and they equate mistakes with not lovable, not worthy. And eventually it goes like abandonment and death. It goes down that line. So children are frightened to make mistakes. And then go to school. You go to school, and what are you taught? It's okay to make mistakes. Play, express yourself, try everything out and see what you like. The only way to learn is to make mistakes. No, we're not taught that. We make a mistake, kids laugh at us, teachers ridicule us. If we make a mistake in our behavior, what, we get expelled, we get sent to the principal's office. In my day, kids got spanked. I mean, think about that. Like, talk about, a bunch of little conformists. Of course, we're frightened to get outside of the box. It's like the nail that stands up gets hammered down. We're not taught to think. We're taught to conform and to be people pleasers. So it's no wonder that many of us make it to adulthood and we suffer from things like perfectionism, procrastination, imposter syndrome, fear of being judged. All these things, especially on social media, get worse and worse. And we start to view ourselves and other people through that lens of credit, blame, pride, and shame. So, oh, she's such a sweet girl. She would do anything for anybody, right? How many times have we heard that? Or, man, that guy's a dirtball. Did you hear what he did? Like, he cheated on her or whatever. Like, we view people through this lens as if their worth could be changed. Like, she's more worthy because she does nice things for people, and he's less worthy because he cheated on somebody. And I think all of us are guilty of that at some point or another, of judging like, oh, this person's more worthy or this person's less worthy or whatever. But here's what I want to say to you. There is not a single thing, not one thing you could do to make yourself any more worthy. Not one. And the good news, there's not a single thing you could do to make yourself any less worthy. You were born worthy. That never, ever changes. The mere fact that you exist in a body on this planet means you're worthy to be here, just as worthy as everybody else. And yes, people that are murderers are just as worthy to be here as anybody else. People that are saints, your Mother Teresa's, your Gandhi's, they're just as worthy as a murderer. And I know it's a weird concept, but it doesn't change ever. You can't earn it. It's the exact opposite of what we're taught. We're taught like you behave, you get good grades, you do what I say, you play on the sports team, you look a certain way, and I'll love you and accept you. And if you don't, you'll be the black sheep. We'll lock you in your room. We'll make excuses for you why our friends can't see you, whatever. You hear it all the time. Maybe you've been a victim of that as well. So how do you actually change this? Well, when I tell you stories like I'm telling you about the moralistic thinking, you can take your own self, your life, your own self, take your own self. Where am I? Who knows? Take your life and just take a look. Our team mentor, the guy who developed it, Dr. John Connolly, he's like, what's something you're proud of? And so I said something, and he's like, okay, so do you think you're any better off because of that thing? I'm like, well, no. Well, it's a pride, and it's a skewed lens. It's very skewed. So if you're proud, I mean, especially with worthiness, it's like a weird thing, right? So I'm not supposed to be proud either? Well, yeah, you could feel good about things. Feel good. Yeah. When I do this thing, I feel good. When I take action, when I'm scared, I feel really good. When I'm courageous, when I am feeling tired and lazy and I actually reach out to somebody to support them, that makes me feel good. Even though I didn't necessarily think I had the energy to do it, and I do it, that makes me feel good. So that's different than pride. Pride is, from this perspective, from this lens, it's something like credit, blame, pride, and shame. So if I'm proud, I can also be ashamed. Like if it were taken away from me, or somebody said I was doing a bad job at this thing I'm proud of, then it could go right to shame, which is one of the lowest vibrating frequencies you could possibly be. So shifting it comes from really first noticing, okay, what are my results? What am I experiencing in all the different areas? So let's go with friends, family, your fun life, like what you do for recreation or hobbies, career, money, your spiritual relationship. Are you settling? Are you settling for, I talk to God every Sunday at church, or is it like every day, all day? What is it that you're experiencing? And just start noticing where you're making sacrifices or settling. I love this concept in A Course in Miracles, and it's God would never ask his son to sacrifice, which means that we all get to follow our energy of desire. It was put there by God for us because there's something in there for us. It's our dharma, it's what we're called to do. So if we really truly desire something, and I don't mean like, oh, I really desire a chocolate cake. That's not a desire. That's a want, right? Desire is something that keeps calling you forward. It's like, oh, I really want to write a book. I have a friend who's in this place. Like, I keep being called to write a book or whatever it is. I'm called to start a business. I'm called to join the Peace Corps, whatever it is. There's a desire that it won't be quiet. It keeps like tapping and getting louder and louder. It's tapping and then it's knocking and then it's like, but it's something in you, like you're called to do it. That is a desire. And I also love, there's this concept of humility from 12 step that I absolutely love. And one of the definitions of humility is right sized. So it's not too big, not too small. Most people take it to the extreme and they become way too small. Like they call it humble. Humble is owning your God-given gifts, talents, and abilities, owning them and sharing them without holding back. You're just sharing them with the world. Whether you get rejected or not, whether people receive it or not, you're like, this is one of my gifts. Like for me, I think one of my biggest gifts is that ability to love people unconditionally, to really see them and to see who they are behind all the masks, behind all the armor that they may have put on over the course of a lifetime, and to really just stand and be a mirror. I used to call it, one of my greatest abilities was being a divine mirror for people. And so when they actually look at me, they see their true selves without all the crap that they've put on or that's been put on them over the years. And when people see it, it's so beautiful because, they might say, oh, it's you. It's not me. They're seeing a reflection of themselves back. And it's the person that's not afraid of rejection, the person that's not a people pleaser, the person that's like, this is what I want and I'm going for it. I deserve it. If it's within me, it's meant for me. So that's another thing, is just owning, like, if the desire is within you, it is meant for you. God put it there, source, spirit, whoever you believe in, it is meant for you. So if there's something that keeps calling you forward, I believe it's your job to remove the obstacles. So, what I do, right? I'm an RRT facilitator, rapid resolution therapy. So I help people take all that stuff, all the clutter that's in their mind. I'll call it like Marie Kondo for the mind. And she's the one getting rid of clutter. Keep only the things that spark joy. Same with your memories, right? Like, let's keep the ones that spark joy. Let's put all the rest into long-term storage where they affect you as much as, hey, what'd you have for dinner last Tuesday? And they don't, right? It's like, yeah, that happened, but it's over. It's over. There's nothing for me to do about it. There's nothing I could have done differently, because if I could have, I would have. There's nothing that should have been different, because if it should have been, it would have been. So it's over. I survived it. I'm here right now. So that's the information I get to the unconscious mind or subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. It's both. And from there, it can relax. It can access your humor, your creativity, your logic, your passion, your joy, your fun, your compassion, because you can't access any of those if you're in survival. If you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, you don't have access to, oh, let me go within and write a sonnet. Like, you're not going to do that, or you're not going to be alive, right? So I get the good news to the unconscious mind that you are safe. You already survived all that stuff. And then it can also go into maintenance and repair, which it will. It will like speed up healing so fast, so fast. So there's all that good stuff. So back to worthiness, your worthiness level. All right, so we're looking to see what your results are. Are you settling in any area? Are any of the areas lower than you would like? Then that's the one you get to work on. And one thing that's really good to do is what you focus on expands. So find some times when you actually felt good in each one of those areas. Like when was a time where you were in a good relationship, where somebody was treating you well, or you felt appreciated, like something, right? You can find evidence of whatever you're seeking evidence for. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. I'm just using that as an example, but it could be any relationship with anybody ever, a teacher, a friend, a student. I mean, it could be anybody, right? A neighbor, anyone that's ever appreciated you. What you focus on expands. What you tell your subconscious mind to look for, it will do. You just get to tell it. You get to give it the right instructions. So that's part. Celebrate everything that you like. Every single thing. Like if you're working on self-care, on loving yourself more, then celebrate after you floss your teeth. You're like, I flossed today. Woo, woo. I don't care if you floss every single day, twice a day. Celebrate it every day. Like I flossed today. That means I love myself, taking care of myself. Because there's lots of little things that you do to take care of yourself that you do every day so you don't pay attention to. I have a little exercise routine I do almost every single night. My commitment is 6 days a week. I do it almost every night anyways. And I'm like, yeah, I did it. Even when I'm tired, I do it before I go to bed, which is probably a stupid thing to do, but that's when I do it. It's like tied to my routine. And when I'm tired, especially, and I do it, I'm like, yeah, you did it, Karen. Good job. Good job. And I like congratulate myself. I don't see anyone else like in my bedroom congratulating me. That sounded bad. It's Lola. Lola's like, good job, Mom. She's like, don't brush my teeth. That's all she cares about. So you're celebrating everything that moves, because when you celebrate life, you celebrate yourself, the universe, God, spirit, source will bring you more things to celebrate. And you're changing your focus, you're rewiring your mind to really start looking for what's working in your life, because we as human beings, our unconscious mind is in control of almost everything, over 95% of everything we think, feel, believe, and do. So its number one directive is for your survival. And if you don't tell it what to look for, it's going to keep you alive, and it won't care about anything else. It doesn't care if you're in pain. It doesn't care if you're happy. As long as you're alive, that's cool. So you want to tell it what to do. And when you think you're not okay, really examine it. Is it really true? Are you really at threat of dying or being physically injured? Like almost never is that a real threat. And the only purpose of an emotion, a disturbing emotion, is your unconscious mind is trying to get you to take an action to not get hurt. But it only thinks in the present tense. So when you remember something that happened way back when, 30 years ago, it thinks it's happening. So it produces like emotions to try to get you to stop that thing from happening. Don't get hurt. Don't die 30 years ago, right? Like you're like, I already survived. So you can really start telling yourself like, hey, look at all the things that have happened after that. That event is over. And if you can go back and forth, this might help you. Go back and forth, remember that thing, and then look around the room and identify some object and really describe it. Like, so I have a painting that I painted years ago, and it's a woman's face, and it's green and pink and purple and whatever. Like, so really describe it in detail, because the mind, when it goes from the past to the present, back and forth, it's like, well, which one's real, right? And then it's like, it takes that memory that is disturbing, and it's like, well, that can't be happening if I'm sitting here in this room right now looking at this painting. So it can really help you reprocess that and put it into storage. And if it's not working for you, please come see me. Please. It's ridiculous to walk around suffering. It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. You are worthy of more. And the way that I get results for people is remarkable. I have a client who got to be with his ex-wife, her new partner, and his 3 sons. And every year at the holidays, there are triggers that come up. And he texted me after Christmas and he's like, 12 hours together, not a single trigger. I was cool as a cucumber. He's like, the freedom that I feel is, I never thought I would feel this way. Like that kind of stuff. And I have like tons of those testimonials, like people that are sleeping through the night when they haven't slept through the night their entire lives. People that are out of physical pain, because the pain again is a signal, don't get hurt 30 years ago or whatever. And when you get that message to the unconscious mind that that event is over, you already survived it, then it stops sending the pain signal. It's unnecessary. So if you're having any issues at all with like any stuckness or emotional turmoil, please come see me. I will put the link to book a free discovery call with me in the show notes. And I hope to see you, because it's remarkable. It can happen in a very short period of time. One of the most common things that people say is this session or two with you was better than all the years of therapy and coaching I've ever done. And I'm like, yeah. And it took you an hour and a half or whatever, 3 hours if it's 2 sessions. Each session's an hour and a half. So thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. Have a beautiful new year, and I will see you right here next week. Mwah.